Hello, adventurers! I'm your host, Journey, and welcome to the Jam-Packed Journey. And today we're looking at another Disventure Camp What If. For this one, we're looking at the scenario in episode 3 where Ellie ended up betraying Lake when she didn't want to vote for Aiden. For this scenario, we are looking at the possibility of if Ellie didn't do that. So, before we end up starting, I may as well give this. So here, this is going to be the first part of a two-parter. At least I'm aiming for a two-part. I don't know how long the rest is going to take, but I've gotten my notes up to the merge, and it already took quite some time to get all those notes down, so let's just get into this and not waste any time. Alright, so naturally this team won already. And so they would be discussing who to vote. Ellie still brings up Aiden since Tom's better at challenges, but Lake wants to vote Tom since she's friends with Aiden. Now, instead of immediately assuming that Lake is untrustworthy, she decides that I need the numbers. Pretty much everyone but Gabby and Ashley has beef with me from our last season. So Lake wouldn't get the target, and I think Ellie would realize that if she votes Aiden, and they move on, Lake need not be so willing to work for her. So she agrees to voting off Tom. Gabby is very sad and not wanting to do this, but she does ultimately give in, meaning 4-2 vote. Tom is eliminated. He is surprised and saddened, thinking that since he's better at challenges, Aiden would go, but Ellie kind of just gives a reasoning that oh, I can't trust you. I know you're definitely gunning for me. Within them having a confessional of Ellie saying it was just to make Lake happy, so I have an ally. We cut back and see Gabby hugging Tom, saying that she's sorry for the vote. And Tom forgives her, but glaring at Ellie about how this is a mistake and you're gonna wish you kept me around for a team. He gives Aiden a high five, and he boards the bus of losers with a bit of a smile. Alright, next challenge. The episode would start, instead of Tess and Aiden having the conversation because Aiden distraught over the two people he's closest to getting eliminated back to back. Because that didn't happen, it would actually be Ellie and Gabby who have to talk, with Gabby still feeling guilty about voting Tom, and Ellie saying that I would have wanted to keep him around too for the challenges, but we need to make sure Lake stays on our side because everyone but Ashley is gonna be gunning for me once we reach merge, because they all have beef with because they all have beef with me for what I said in those interviews and what I did last season. Gabby does understand, and she thanks Ellie for the comfort. They share a brief kiss before the rest of the episode still happens. So up until the Villains Alliance meeting, everything does stay the same. The only thing that could potentially change is Ellie not searching for the totem. It doesn't really affect much, but I do have it play a role later, so we're gonna say she does because she's a bit worried about Lake's loyalty for wanting to vote off Aiden, wanting to vote. She would rather vote with Aiden than she implied she would rather vote with Aiden than with the Alliance. So yeah, the Villains Alliance still happens, kinda. Alec still brings everyone there. All the same questions are dropped, but when Alec asks if everyone in Ellie actually doesn't join because now she has a strong alliance here. She knows that even if she's a bit skeptical on Lake, she's way more untrustworthy of Alec. So now she has a better option. So yeah, the Villains Alliance is still here. It's just Ellie's not a part of it now, which is the main reason why it did this. But Lake deserved to get farther in All Stars, but that's beyond the point. So for the challenge, first off, when Jake sees that Tom is eliminated, he has a confessional saying that he can't believe Tom is gone. They haven't even gotten a chance to talk yet, and Tom is the main reason why he decided to come back anyway. And then, for the challenge, pretty simple to decide the order. Kind of the same order as last time, it's just Lake and Tom's spot. So first one we have Lake versus Gret versus Allie. Gret still throws Allie glasses, but since Lake wouldn't fight dirty, I imagine she wouldn't trip Gret and instead rustle for the bag, taking it, giving her team the first point, just like Tom did in Canon. Next up, the second round. It's Hunter versus Gabby versus Yule. And yeah, that pretty much stays out the same with Gabby and Yule fighting for the bag and Hunter taking the opportunity to steal it from both of them, giving the Magenta team a second point, making them one away from winning. The first point and making them two away from winning. Next is Jake versus Connor versus Aiden. And once again, all that stays the same. And now for this, when Jake shoves Aiden, there's no one here to call him out on it for some reason, even though Gret already did worse by taking Allie's glasses, and Tom did something similar in tripping Gret, so I don't see why Aiden is any different. Anyway, yeah, Aiden would just have a fit, yell, claiming that it was uncalled for from Jake, but Rhea tells him to suck it up. So yeah, that's 2 magenta, 1 cyan, 0 yellow. Next up is Ashley versus Miriam versus Tess. And once again, plays out exactly the same. Ashley gets it first. Miriam hits her with a sandball, knocks her over, but she still gets the bag over the line. Meaning Cyan team wins the challenge. No, not Cyan team. Magenta team wins the challenge and is safe. This makes the next one Ellie versus Rhea. Same things happen, but instead Ellie wouldn't bring up the alliance to potentially save Ellie. So yeah, a lot of that still happens. Rhea still wins, giving the yellow team their first point. I mean, all these have gone and they can go again. And since Tom went, I put Lake in that spot against Alec. I feel like Alec would still wanna get rid of Miriam and throw to keep the Villains Alliance under wrap. So he would throw here, giving Cyan Team a second point, but he's still a bit skeptical on Ellie. Maybe she will tell. I don't think she would. I think she would want to keep the idea of working with the Villains Alliance in mind for the merge in case the Lake doesn't work out, but he definitely she definitely wouldn't tell. So yeah, Alex still volunteers to try under the guise of wanting to make up. Now initially Ellie only volunteered because Alec, but no one else seemed eager to volunteer, and Lake literally just went, so I don't think she would want to go either. So yeah, I think they would go, and before he officially throws, he would ask Ellie, "Did you tell them about the Lion?" She said no. She would obviously say no, kind of, getting this idea like wanting to work with you guys in the future, depending on how this works out. But I was like, all right. And then he throws, giving Cyan team the win and sending Yellow to elimination. And Miriam still threatens Alec about the Villains Alliance. Lions pulls all the same stuff, and Alec gets the numbers to vote her out. Same thing happens. Not much changes. Let's just move on. The Turbulent Triathlon. A lot would again stay the same because not a whole lot happened. I do have to check again my notes. I'm pretty sure everything's. Oh yeah. First off, Aiden would be hunting with Blake instead of Tom. Tom just talking about regular stuff, and then Aiden then has a confessional about the whole getting to thrive with his best friend. But most of the opening of Cyan Team stays the same with the chicken. And then everything kind of stays the same into the notes because since Miriam was listening to the whole thing, she would know that Ellie decided to set apart. She didn't trust Ellie to keep it a secret, but she wouldn't feel the name to put any target on her back. I mean, not keep it a secret to spill the secret, but she didn't want to put a target on Ellie's back when that number could be used when that's still a number that can be used against the Villains Alliance. So pretty much the same thing happens on the Magenta team, but for the Cyan team, we wouldn't actually have the team blowing up since Ellie isn't getting called out for being in the alliance. Instead, she kind of just acts shocked with them, and they agree that now more than ever they need to be more unified as a team to make sure the Villains Alliance crumbles. Because yeah, now that Ellie's not doubting it, I don't think anyone here is going to be like, Oh yeah, yeah, it's definitely false. It could be false, but like in the challenge, kind of get the same interactions at the beginning. Pretty much same order. Tess and Ellie ride bike. Hunter and Jake ride bike. Brett and Yul ride bikes. Then Alec and Connor dive. Lake and Aiden dive, Ashley and Allie dive, and then Fiore, Gabby, and Rhea run. So a lot of this would still happen, but instead of a test immediately saying having the confessional about Ellie not acting as herself, not acting like how she was in college, she would sort of have the suspicion and wonder what that was about when she mentioned Miriam, but not a lot happens there. This part stays the same. Instead of the whole swimming thing that these two had, they would still like we kind of just encourage Aiden that he can do this and promise to hold his hand as they died, being friends, especially since she knows the trauma of why he was afraid of height. And again, these two stay the same, and all the preamble stays the same. But we then have Ellie and Tess, instead of whole tight knit thing, is like more so we need to keep the girls' alliance a secret. With Tess saying we can trust Hunter, he's a friend, and we can get another girl to our side in Allie. So yeah, she goes to hunt Hunter, they have the same conversation. And back in the water here with Lake and Aiden, the conversation he wouldn't be hanging on to Lake and instead just swimming. And while it would be slower that way, I think they would still get enough time for Gabby to not have a massive disadvantage in the challenge. Considering she already had a disadvantage too, and managed to beat Fiore with that. So instead, they would just kind of talk about friendship stuff of Lake encouraging Aiden, allowing them to go faster, and like last time, Fiore would tell Rhea that they're onto them and they need to, and she needs them to throw so that way her team doesn't vote her off. Rhea's too selfish about the reward to see the value in it, meaning yellow team is first. And like last time, Gabby is fast enough to pass Fiore before crossing the finish line, meaning meaning Magenta team is up for elimination yet again. And once again, the same thing happens with Jake and Ashley realizing that if they vote out Fiore, they'll have to be in a tiebreaker against these two, and that makes it risky to get her out now when they'll have the numbers to get rid of Fiore in the future. So that means 3-2 vote. Hunter is still eliminated. Same reaction, and that's episode 4 or 5, yeah. Again, the opening stays the same until the cops comes up until we get to the Cyan team, which doesn't have Tom. And instead of talking about Tom being a cop, they just kind of talk about Lake and her books, and all of them kind of wishing her being so happy that she managed to be successful in doing her dream, with Ellie showing a bit of jealousy for that, given she's still struggling to get her dream job. And then Tess wouldn't question things blowing up, but instead for her confessional, she would wonder why Ellie's been so inconsistent lately. One minute she's the chill person she knows in college, and the next she's acting ruthless. Then we get to the challenge. Again, most stuff stays the same. The biggest difference is the Cyan Team song. I think Gabby would still write a love song because that feels very much her. But instead of having one girl couple and one boy couple kiss, they would have two girl couples kiss, with Aiden being stuck in the backdrop, as much as that annoys him, and that Tess and Lake would kiss. Obviously, Lake would be very hesitant, given how she's never really kissed anyone before. But Tess says it's just for a challenge. It won't mean anything. It won't mean anything, and we can also be friends afterwards. With Blake agreeing, but still pretty nervous about the whole thing. And while I could mention who would realistically be how realistically Lake would be with the singing, it doesn't matter because Rhea would still decide that, hey, Connor is to decide, hey, I'm gonna use all the power to give myself the best spotlight. Her ego causing the downfall of the challenge. Sadly, 4-1 vote. Connor is eliminated. That's like last time. Next challenge, Ball Buster. This is when we finally start getting a bit different. I know things have been the same for a while, but here we go. Now the opening scene stays the same until we get to the Tom Jake scene. Since obviously Tom and Jake there, I decided to replace it with a cute little no drama scene with just Gabby and Ellie, and biased and they're underutilized. Just sort of like talking about Gabby with Gabby already not being able to wait till they can just go back to normal life and not have to worry about the game interfering with the game interfering with their time together. But Ellie mentioning that she desperately does need with Ellie saying it would be nice, but even then we still wouldn't have time outside the game because I have to work 2 jobs. Gabby saying that she's offered before and she'll continue offering to help Ellie financially whenever she can. Ellie appreciates it, and the scene ends with them cuddling. And then instead of Jake wanting to find Ashley to talk about what happened with Tom, he would just want to hang out with Ashley, do their morning routine, causing the seeds of doubt to spread. Once again, things are still staying the same. We're still getting a bit before some of the big changes. No Tom to offer to carry the ball for the challenge. And now when we get interesting is another scene that does involve Ellie being in the Villains Alliance with Alec and Rhea talking about it and Gabby overhearing it. Instead of them mentioning the Villain Alliance being real and that making Gabby realize that, oh, Ellie is a part of it instead, they would not only mention it's real, but it'd be so much easier if Ellie took up our offer. Gabby would then have a confessional stating that Ellie was offered. She may have rejected, but she's wondering why she didn't tell anyone, and that has her feeling down. The next part starts, and instead of again, most of this stays the same. So a lot of this is more dependent on Tom being here, but a lot of this happens between the other 2 teams, and that doesn't involve Tom being here. So just anything with Lake, Tom. So anything or Tom, Lake is there, and honestly doesn't have much. I won't say anything. Now the change that's not involving on Tom is Tess and Gabby's conversation. I feel like now that the Villain Alliance was a rumor that needs to be confirmed. It would just be she would realize that saying that Ellie was offered but didn't tell anyone about the alliance would just paint a target on her back, and she wouldn't want to do that, especially not before talking to her. So she would just kind of act like, I miss Tom. Yeah, I still miss Tom, with Tess giving the same comforting thing of, you'll reunite eventually, like, whether you win the game or not. And that has Gabby at least feeling a little bit better, but also a bit guilty about lying to Tess. Most of the challenge stays the same. Yellow team still, Alex still does his little log trick that gives the yellow team the win. And so now it comes down to these teams, and I think Cyan team would still win. It's a bit tougher to say because the reason why they were able to win in the first place is because of the Magenta team, because of Ellie taking advantage of the Tom Drake drama by shoving Tom onto Aiden. But now that I hear she can't do that, but given how Aiden was able to stop the ball in its place even after getting knocked down and it's still rolled, I think that Jake wouldn't be able to do that, to stop the ball from rolling in. At least that's what I think. It could go either way. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree differently, but this is what I think would happen. So yeah. Once again, the team that lost last time wins, and there's no reason to believe anything happened in the story for the targets to change. Fiore is eliminated in a 3-1 vote. Give me some space. Big changes. All right. First up, the conversation between Tess and Ellie at the beginning would still happen. And instead of, the Villains Alliance stuff, that doesn't come up since Tess doesn't know that Ellie is involved with that at all. Instead, she just kind of talked about how she's been neglecting Gabby trying to find his totem, and Ellie does the whole, it's $3 million, this money can change my life. And having that same conversation involving Gabby and the money, what's more important than Gabby and the money, making Ellie feel guilty. Then we have the Lake and Tom, why can't I speak? Lake and Aiden bonding just over some small stuff. Gabby coming in feeling a bit disheartened. Them saying that she doesn't know where Ellie is, and instead of it going up from last to talk about what she did, instead it's just kind of expands from there with Gabby sort of just withholding the big truth of saying, Ellie, she's been so focused on the game, she hasn't really spent a lot of time with me, and I'm worried that she doesn't love me as much. With Lake saying, if you think there's a problem, you owe it to your relationship to talk to Ellie. Ellie, believe me, I know firsthand that not communicating in relationship can ruin it, as it nearly ruined my relationship with Rosa. Gabby thinks, Lake, and runs off to find Ellie. Challenge starts. Once again, a lot of stuff changes. Tom doesn't really add a whole lot to this episode. I can easily see Lake taking the role of leadership and stuff like that, but Tom doesn't add a lot. However, finally, we get to a big divergence in the challenge because of the lack of Tom not causing Jake to be jealous. Meaning, when we get to here, after they build the ladder, they wouldn't be so focused on fighting on who gets there first that they let Rhea make it to merge or make it to the next challenge. So instead, when the tier go up, they would agree we need to work together to stop her, especially since Aiden would mention how big of a threat she is. They go up and they stop Rhea, making the loser of this challenge a new loser for once, the yellow team, causing them to go to elimination. Alec would have a confessional talking about how this basically ruins the Villains Alliance now, but there's no need. But he can't worry about that. He just needs a vote. I feel like it's kind of obvious. Alex on Rhea's side, Gret's on Yule's side. Rhea hates Yule, Yule hates Rhea. They vote for each other and are put in a tiebreaker. While it could be anything, I think it's safe to assume it's the one that Gabby and Tom had back in here. So I think that Alec has Rhea on her side. Rhea has Alec on her side. I mean, Yule would lose a tiebreaker and be eliminated. Once he gets out of the cage, he kind of crashes out on Alec. Cut out. Anyway, once Yule gets out of the cage, he'll crash out on Alec and Rhea, with Gret trying to comfort him and give him a nice goodbye, with Gret taking his frustration out on her, or letting all his true misogynistic comments come out about her appearance, and thirdly breaking up with her right on live TV, leaving her devastated as he leaves to the bus of losers. Then slip and slide. So now we have a lot more to change. I'll say this right now, the magenta stuff stays the same. Yeah, sorry right now we still get the Jake and Allie beef, but I think you already knew that wasn't changing when Allie was still here. However, we also have now, instead of the whole, oh man, I feel bad for Gabby, it makes sense she's mad at us, she's close to Ellie, but Ellie's still here. Now these two would actually go on a walk where Gabby would not only give Ellie the plushie she got, but also finally have a full talk with her about what's going on, about what she heard. Her saying she heard Alec and Rhea mention that they offered you a role in the Villains Alliance. I know you rejected, but why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell us about it? With Ellie giving her reasoning that she doesn't fully trust Lake yet, considering how she may have been willing to vote with Aiden over us, and I wanted us to have a sort of safety net in case we fall through, but none of that matters now because they're now losing another member, going down from 4 to 3, making us outnumber them. Gabby would be happy to hear this, saying that she was never planning, especially since she knows that means Ellie wouldn't be planning on betraying her with it. The two would hug and then share a passionate kiss before we transition to the other teams. And then the next conversations are Tess and Aiden, now that James being gone for a while, it's starting to get to him a lot more with Tess helping him comfort it. So it's basically the
Shopping
episode
for your
2
next car?
conversation,
What about third
the
row
episode 4
seats?
conversation without Lake being eliminated. Aiden and then for the final Cyan team reaction.
With millions of cars nationwide, Auto Navigator makes it easy to find the perfect one for you, whatever that may be.
No pictures.
Then for final Cyan team reaction, we have Lake and Gabby interacting, with Gabby thanking Lake for the advice, and now that she and Ellie are stronger than ever, with Lake saying she's happy to be of help and to come with her if they need any more advice. But there's something else new too, thanks to the yellow team. Because now instead of relaxing, Gret is devastated, and Alec tries to help, saying that she deserved better than Yule, which only makes her more sad about the fact that she thought someone who loved her, or someone that she thought loved her, actually turned out to be using her this whole time. Alec has a confessional stating he was never really the best with handling emotions, and that may be another reason why he and Cheryl didn't work out. But regardless, he needs to find a way to get Grit's head back in the game. So now that the villain alliance is down to 3, they can't have any distraction. Rio takes it over, kind of giving the whole pet talk about, oh, we're women, we can't be weak in an issue like this, or else everyone's gonna walk all over us. Which doesn't fully make her feel better. She's still a bit distracted, but she at least is now willing to try and challenges. Speaking of challenges, Dissel stays the same, with the reaction to Yule being gone, being a little smug smirk from everyone outside the Villains Alliance. First challenge, Gret still does. Now since these two aren't really they don't really have their beef, it wouldn't affect any of their challenge performance, but her challenge performance is affected as she misses her shot from not thinking clearly, and I think Aiden would shoot his shot first. Then we have Ali, Tess, and Rhea. Rhea would still do the same thing, pushing Ali and Tess over, giving her a point. And next it would naturally be Alec, and since Yule isn't here, Alec has to take his place. I feel like I got that wrong. Hold on. I forgot to mention, the All team mentions that it's important that they win with this twist of both teams sharing elimination, since they are at a massive disadvantage, or at least need to be able to tie with Cyan. You get the order wrong. It was actually Ashley. It was Rhea versus. It was Gabby versus Alec versus Ashley. Ashley, while there is no proting, is still going to get 1-1-0, only with now being Cyan and Magenta with the 1. And Rhea and Tess and Allie would be. Now we're caught up. Now we're caught up here. That's my bad, guys. And then up next is Jake versus Lake. And once again, Alec, being how Yule isn't here to take his place, isn't here to have his turn. I think mostly this one would stay the same as the Tom one. Not really the same as the Tom. I think Lake would actually get the win here, rather than maybe Tom did. Whatever, Lake gets it because she'd be lighter than Alec and move faster, but be more physically gifted than Jake and be more likely to make the basket, making it 2-2-1. And then with Ellie versus Gret versus Ashley, Gret still does the same thing, knocking the balls out of Ellie's and Ashley's hands, but this time with Ashley to take the balls, to take Gret's ball, throw it, and win. And I think she would make it 2-2-1 with yellow team at the bottom. And then next would be Ali versus Rhea versus Gabby, which would play out the same, and Ali winning it for magenta team, getting them and officially making the yellow team getting these 3 into the merge. Now for this, I think it's pretty obvious. Aiden would still want to vote for the villains team, but this time he has the numbers and he can convince Ellie and Gabby that Rhea is way worse than Gret ever was, making her eliminated. Rhea, like Yule, would crash out about this. They're saying that they're going to regret eliminating her and that she'll find some way to make them pay for ruining Stardom. As she boards the bus of losers, we see her crying over failing to keep her reputation up as a ruthless competitor. So yeah, it's part 1, and here we have the merge. Since I never did a parter, I'll mention what my, instead of talking what I feel about with this what if, I will talk about the plot points going forward and the big changes we have between this and the original merge. First up, Ellie, we have the Girls Alliance going strong into the merge, controlling controlling nearly half the votes, all by themselves, with with Allie, and then Ashley joining them. We don't have any Jake and Aiden beef, but we do have the Jake and Allie beef going in. And obviously we have the three mergers who were pre-mergers in All Stars.
Shopping for your next car?
Ellie, Tess, and Lake.
What about third row seats?
And then we also have Yule being eliminated early for being eliminated early and breaking Brett's heart
With
early,
millions of cars
making for
nationwide, Auto Navigator
making
makes
for
it
a
easy
fresh
to find the
dynamic
perfect
into
one
the
for you,
merge,
whatever that may be.
and the Villains Alliance at a massive disadvantage. So, like I said, I still got to write the second part, get all my notes down for that. But until then, I hope you've all enjoyed this AU. I know I certainly enjoyed making it. This has been Jam Pack Journey. It's been the Jam Pack Journey, and I will see you all next time.